Good morning, Giants. Have you ever wondered how to overcome addiction? This episode's for you. Good morning, Giants. Welcome to Wake Up with Giants TV. I'm Ryan Morris, and as always, I'm here with your host, Nicholas T. Smith. We're so excited for this episode today. Nick, will you introduce our guests?
I would love to. We're going to be talking with Tiffany Naccarato, and hopefully I said your name right there. Tiffany is a proud mother, birth mother of 4 children. She's an adventure seeker. She's a fierce advocate in the addiction recovery community, especially advocating for families. I'm stumbling over my words this morning. It's awesome. So she's involved with families in the criminal justice system because a lot of them will get stuck in that cycle, and she advocates for them and helps them get through that. She started out as a young mom with big dreams and did everything that young moms do, but she felt this void. And so she started doing drugs and depending on substances to fill that void. And because of that, she spent 6 years living alone on the streets, seeking something in others that she was avoiding in herself. So she uses her newfound power in every area of her life to dominate, to show up fully, and to make changes in others. She's a fierce advocate for those involved in sex trafficking, for those that are recovering from that. And so we're grateful to have you on the show. We look forward to exploring your journey. And shall we jump in?
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm very honored to be
You're
here.
welcome. And I think with our title, as you mentioned earlier, it really isn't about overcoming addiction. Like you said, it's overcoming yourself. And so we want to dive into your story and kind of explore the journey from the beginning. Like, what was it like for you growing up? What was childhood like?
Oh my gosh, it was so I was this cute little girl with big brown eyes and curly hair and just wanted to explore life. And I did, and I had, there was a lot of good in my childhood. But there was also a lot of chaos.
Yeah.
And so my very first memory is of me of my mother like having sexual relationships and doing substances, right? Age 3.
Yeah.
I found myself at age 3. So that's my very first memory. And I always like to say rest in peace, Mom, because my mom passed on and she did the best she could. But, and she was a great mom too, but there was a lot of chaos there. And I grew up not knowing how to be stable or how to be okay with myself, just flip-flopping to different situations. And but I was, in school, I was great at school. I had a lot of friends. I remember just seeking out relationships, trying to be the friendly one, to just love everybody. I always had a lot of love just at a very young age. And, thanks. And I grew up loving everybody else but myself. Not find that love within me. And so I felt like I was never me growing up. I was always just trying to please everybody else. And so here I am, junior high. I started with eating disorder. I remember measuring my thighs on a daily basis, right? Trying to go with just eating saltine crackers for the week, and holding all this in and not talking to anybody about it. And then in high school, I started dibbling into a substance to try to fit in, I guess, maybe. But I would never really like it though. So, but I was always just the friendly girl, outgoing girl that loved life. And my family, I had two strong sides of family that just cheering me on all the time. And they always thought that I was going to do these big things, right? And I am now, so that's okay.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, now works, right? So I want to ask you about your childhood, going in a little bit deeper. Did you have this void that you felt? Was it because of your experience with your mom? Was it other things that were going on that created that feeling of trying to avoid? I don't know if it was avoid those feelings or emotions, but what was it that happened inside of you that led you to the addictive behaviors?
Not knowing, not having a chance. So my life was so chaotic, like with both parents.
Yeah.
Doing what they were doing, and then I just didn't have time to just sit instead of like sit, right? I was just like going from what this parent to this parent, or trying to please this family to this family. Like it was just, I could never just sit and just find out who I was. And so yeah, I was just always pleasing people.
Okay. And so when you were loving others, like you said, when you didn't love yourself, how did that work? So can you share that?
Well, I thought it was working great, right? Until I had nothing but myself to turn that love to, and I didn't know how to do that, so it ended up not being great. But yeah, I mean, growing up, like I remember feeling not right in my body, in myself, but I couldn't identify that yet, so not till later on.
Yeah, so you didn't even know. I mean, you felt uncomfortable, but you didn't know why. You didn't know how to handle it. Mm-hmm. And so when did you turn to substances? When did that come up?
So like I said, I did a little, right? But age 24 is when I ended up having a substance use disorder. And what led me to that was heartbreak. Okay. Right? It fits into my childhood. So I got married, had this wonderful life, dream guy that I've been searching for my entire life, and had one child at the time, and I thought everything was just going great, and he ended up not being faithful to me, and it tore my heart to pieces. That was the very first time in my life that I can remember my heart breaking, and I don't think it will ever break that like that again. Like,
so you put up a wall around that. Mm-hmm. And so when that happened, so I'm just trying to make sense of the emotion of it, because I think when addiction comes along, it's because there's so much intense emotion in us that we don't know how to deal with it. So we try and numb it. Mm-hmm. And we try and find a way to just soften that blow. And so it's almost like we seek this relief from that discomfort. And then it turns into this addiction. Can you speak to that?
Yeah. So that night when I found out that he was being unfaithful, right? I caught him right in the action. The first thing I said is, I need to get high, which I hadn't been getting high for, I wasn't getting high. It wasn't something I didn't know really anyone. I knew one person, an ex-boyfriend. Yeah. And it's weird to me that was my first thought, even though I hadn't, been using for. And so I just didn't know how to relieve that pain without getting a substance in my body to take it away. Yeah. And it had any tools. And so, yeah, I just went and I started using on a daily basis after that, instead of facing the actual hurt.
Yeah. And so keep going with your story. So it puts you 6 years, you said you spent on the street or alone, right?
Yeah.
After this?
From there, I ended up using, and sadly to say that I got him addicted, right, to using with me. And so here we are, destroying both of our lives, even worse than they were that night when it started, and ended up not working, right? We're living off of our savings for a whole year. Him selling dope, like it turned fast. And luckily my parents stood up and took care of my oldest child at the time, or my only child at the time. And then I ended up getting pregnant, and I had the courage to leave that relationship for the time being and got sober with that baby. And he kept on using. And then after the birth of our child, he wanted to come back into the picture, and he decided to get sober, and he's been sober since that day. So that's pretty cool. He gets to be a dad to our kids now. But yeah, I stayed sober, and we tried to work it out. We bought a house, had another kid, and that's where I turned to being the best mom that I thought I, could be. And, PTA mom, helicopter mom, like everything looked picture perfect, and it was pretty dang good, but I still was avoiding me and what I needed. And he wasn't able to deliver that, clear back from when the night that he was dishonest with me. Like there was just all this that we had not brought to surface. And so I slowly but surely started looking for outside security outside of the marriage and outside of my motherhood. And so I would be a mom during the day, soccer mom, taking my kids everywhere, and dinner on the table and looking all pretty. And then after I put the kids to bed, singing them lullabies every night, I'd go out and I'd walk the streets. And this lasted a couple years. And then I slowly couldn't keep up and ended up leaving my kids at our back door. I remember my dope dealer was sitting outside in his car, and my two little ones were holding on to each one of my legs, crying. And they were little, and one remembers kind of, but they were little, crying for me not to leave. And I had 2 bags, and I'm leaving this house, this dream that I always wanted, to go outside and live on the streets. And from that day on, I lived six years on the streets.
Yeah. Wow. Now, did you end up going to jail or prison around this, or? So
from before that, I was just using at my home, right? So I wasn't doing any criminal. Well, I was doing criminal activity, but not to that depth. And so I hadn't gained, any charges or anything like that. But once I hit the streets, it was on. I turned into something that I never thought I could be, and definitely didn't want to be, but that's how you have to survive out there. So yeah, I was doing a lot of criminal activity, hurting people, breaking into houses, right? Stealing just to survive. But I ended up going to jail a lot. I can't even count. And I don't really even, there's a lot though.
Right.
Not prison, luckily.
Right.
I ended up taking, when I was ready to get off the streets, I ended up taking a program that they offer called a specialty courts, felony drug court. So I didn't have to go to prison.
Yeah. Man. So it changed you. Like the drugs took you from that level of discomfort where life is hard already. And then it shifted you in such a degree that you started becoming a person that you really at your core are not, right?
Yeah, Nicholas, I used to stare. So when I was really high, right? And in bathrooms that I didn't know where they were, right? I remember like I would get high and then I'd look into the mirror and I'd be like, who are you? What is going on? I would just try to search for myself and I couldn't find me. It was really sad.
Yeah. And so in that not being able to find you, you just use more drugs and it just spirals, right?
I really thought I was doomed to die that way. Like I thought there's no way I'm going to crawl out of this deep, dark hole. And I think that I mattered enough. Like no one cared about, I already let everybody down, including myself, but really myself didn't matter at that moment. It was, I let down my kids, my family. Remember I said when I was a young kid, my family were always cheering for me, thought I was going to be like this just amazing person. And then here I am shooting up in a bathroom that couldn't even.
I think this is amazing because it really, I am certain that people that are watching this, some of them are going to have a connection with that darkness where you just don't feel like you matter anymore. Like there's no hope for you. What's the point? Who am I even? Why am I even here? Would people even notice if I was gone? Which can take you to some really dark roads. And I'd imagine, going from that space of being in that addiction to where there's no hope to where you are. I know you where you are right now, and it's a totally different story. So my curiosity is around what was it that just snapped you into waking up to seeing that there was more? Because here you are living this small life, doing drugs, not seeing a way out. Is this all there is? And then all of a sudden, there's a new Tiffany Naccarato in the world. Mm-hmm. So what happened?
So a lot of things happened, but it started with, I've always been a woman of prayer, even when I was using. And so I would pray all the time to die, right? I even tried many
Holy cow,
times
yeah.
and never like, I remember just like, how come you're not answering my prayers? I want to die. I want out of this life.
Yeah.
It wasn't working. So I remember when it shifted, my prayers shifted to help me live, help me find a way out. So it started with that little piece, and that happened for probably 6 months. You know what I mean? Just praying for that, and then my boyfriend at the time went to prison again, and here we are in this cycle that I've been doing with him for basically 6 years. Him in and out of prison, trying to get out, being sober, and I wasn't sober. So then he would go back in. So we were just in this vicious cycle. So he went to prison again for the last time that I was with him. And I really had a strong bond with him. And I really hold that relationship close to my heart, because not that I'm with him today, but that love and bond that I had with him helped me say that I didn't want to do this to us anymore. Right. And so at that time, I was hoping that we would live in this fairy tale land after and both be sober and grow. Yeah. So it's ironic because love took me out to the streets, but then it also brought me back in to the world of living today. Right.
Can you explain that? What do you mean? Love took you to the streets, but then brought you back. Like, what do you mean it took you to the streets?
I loved so hard and deep my ex-husband, right? And then when he was unfaithful, I turned to a substance. And so I just, from that love there. And then when I got sober, even though it was a different man that I loved, or human, I should say.
Okay, I see what you're saying. Yeah, your love for another person. In that,
at that time I didn't love myself still, right?
Yeah, I can see that. I can see that when you had that love of that other person, you felt that betrayal, that love, that sense of love that you had for that person, feeling betrayed, led you to that emptiness again, which is going all the way back to childhood. It's going back to those beginnings, and then not stepping up and facing those emotions, right, from childhood, and not knowing how to. That's a big thing, not knowing how to. You lean on what brings comfort. So you lean to drugs. And then when you're in drugs, you find that love pulls you back out because you've got this person that you have this hope for and these dreams for. And you start to have a vision of what's possible for your future, even though you might say fairy tale. Like, that hope for a future was enough to get you to start stepping out. Is that right?
Absolutely.
You want to go a little deeper on that?
Yeah. So here I am, boyfriend just went to prison, alone. I just went through all of my inheritance money. My mom left me. And so I was either going to start doing sex work for myself, right? Because I was surrounded around it all the time. And I really believe that the money that my mom left me kept me from doing some of those things. And so anyways, I ran out of that money. I had been sexually assaulted or raped for my second time. And after the first time, I said, the next time that happens, that person's not going to live. Well, that didn't happen the second time. I still cowered down. And so that really pissed me off. I was just ridiculous. And so after getting sexually assaulted, left alone on the streets, walking around, I didn't have any shoes on. That's really important to me. I always say that in every story because I love my shoes. And I was just walking around cold with no shoes on, not knowing where to go, and hitchhiking and showing up people's doors and them not letting me in, just feeling so alone. And so I got this feeling as I was praying to write my family a letter, one last letter, right? They've tried to help me many times. And so I wrote a letter, and I wrote it like I don't know how many times, but like 5 times probably. And I ripped it up, didn't like it. And it was like this long jumbled mess of words, right? But the point was I wanted help again.
Yeah.
I was ready. And I happened to be walking down the street in Draper by myself, and my stepmother was driving by and she picked me up because she seen me, and she was like, where do you want to go? And I'm like, I don't know. And I didn't even dare to say anything to her. And I had her drop me off some taco place with a couple dollars, and I left that letter in her car. And my stepfather ended up calling me and saying, okay, if you want to talk about this, right? And so I'm like, sure. I thought we were just going to talk about it. So here I am. I'm at some trap house now. And he said he's coming to get me. And I hide my dope that I just got in the bushes and some of my belongings. And I jump in his nice Mercedes. And I'm like trying to act like I have my shit together when really all my belongings are in the bush. And he said, hey, today's the day. You don't get to turn back. Like, we're not talking about it. You're doing it. And I was like, really? Oh, no. And I wanted to scream out, no way, tomorrow, right?
Holy cow.
But a power greater than myself, I said, okay, had me say, okay. And so that's how I started my journey.
Yeah. Could you imagine if you had prepared for that and you're like, okay, I'm going to do it in this order. I'm going to take this step and then this step and this step and this step, and I'm going to get there. I'm going to overcome addiction. You would have never done it. You would have fallen back on the old routines. And here comes along this. It's not that he rescued you. He gave you an opportunity to rescue yourself. And he says, today's the day. There's no going back. If you're going to rescue yourself, and I want to point that out, is that people can come in and support and offer ideas and inspiration, but it's really up to us to pull ourselves out. And so he gave you this opportunity. He says, look, this is it. There's no going back. And I love the humility in what you're saying is like, yeah, something said, say yes. I've been in those situations where you're like, this is going to be the hardest thing I've ever done, but I know it's the right thing to do for me. And I've said yes. And then I've figured out how to do it. And so you say yes to this experience. And so now let's keep going with your stories. So what comes next?
So I thought I was going to be sent to some bougie rehab, right?
Yeah.
Entitlement. I'm like, okay, where am I going? He's like, you're not going anywhere. You're going to sit here. So, and here I am addicted to heroin.
Holy cow.
So I'm like, what are you talking about? I can't withdraw without anything, and
Can you real quick pause on that about the heroin? For those that don't have any experience around it, I don't. How addictive is heroin?
Very addictive. So from my experience and what I've heard is if you do it like 3 times, right?
Yeah.
Then you'll automatically get withdrawals from that if you don't keep on doing it.
Right. And they're serious. Those withdrawals are intense, right?
Mm-hmm. So I ended up withdrawing in his spare bedroom.
Okay.
And your body is shaking so bad that you just lift off the bed, right? Hot and cold sweats nonstop. I remember taking baths all day, all night, in and out, like scalding hot water to try to just numb my aches in my body. I was very delusional. And, but I also had a spiritual awakening during that time, if you'd like me to share.
Yes, please do. Yeah.
Okay. So the whole time that I was out on the streets after my mom passed, I would see my mom and feel her constantly. Like, even when I had many near-death experiences, car accidents, overdoses, whatever, and I would see her. And in fact, like 11 out of the 12 times that I overdosed, my mom would be pushing me. I felt like her pushing me down. I don't know. It's kind of hard to explain, but she was above me, pushing me down, saying, no, Tiffany, not yet, right?
Pushing you back into your body, basically.
Yeah, that's what I felt like. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And then the 12th time, it scared me.
Holy cow. Yeah.
This is a couple months before I got sober, but the 12th time, I felt her saying, I can't do it anymore. Like, you're up. Like, and that scared me.
Holy cow. Yeah.
So here I am. She's with me all through my using days, right? And I really believe she protected me in a lot of situations. And I remember laying there detoxing and her coming in my room. I get a little emotional. Her coming in my
Please
room.
do. Yeah.
Her coming in my room and me telling her it's okay, that she can go and be free now. She doesn't have to look over me anymore. And that I was going to do this, I was really going to do this time. And then I felt her leave, and I haven't felt her as much anymore. But this is the cool thing. My brother had resentments towards me the whole time I was using, because he'd be like, you get to see mom all the time. You feel mom. Because I'd share all these stories. Like, mom was there when I got in this car wreck. And he's like, I don't ever get to see her. And now, since that day, it's been almost 4 years, my brother feels her and sees her all the time.
It's almost like she was there for you in your hardest time, and he was okay. So she knew that, right? Mm-hmm. Man, the emotion of that coming up here is that you're able to say, look, I got it. I mean, what a powerful position to be in. Is before you didn't have it, right? Mm-hmm. Your whole life, you were dependent on the drugs. You're dependent on other people. You're dependent on love in somebody else, right? And when those things fell through, there was nothing there for you, because you couldn't be there for you. So your mom's sitting there supporting you through this. And I want to use that as the example, because she knew you weren't quite ready to take care of yourself yet. And, the beauty of it is that you realize that you have that power within you. It's already there. It was there. And she no longer came. She's like, I can't do this anymore for you. It's almost like this invitation. It's your turn. Mm-hmm. Right. And I think for many people, whether it's a drug addiction or anything we're creating in our life, when we're overcoming our old life, there's a point where we can't depend on other people for anything. And it's not that we can't depend on them. It's just that we need to start leaning on ourselves for that dependence, to start stepping up on our own. Mm-hmm. And so I find it interesting that the moment you said, I've got it, I can do this for myself now, she goes over to your brother, says, mm-hmm. Hey, I'm here, Ryan, did you have some thoughts there?
As I've been listening, I've been a little bit more quiet, because I had it hits home, because I had a really, really, really good friend go through something very, very similar. And I witnessed firsthand the struggle that he went through. His journey obviously was a little bit different than yours, but he experienced many of the same things. And so for me, it brings back some of that, and, makes me contemplate and think of the person that he was before he made that shift as well. And nobody could do it for him. Like, so many people tried, because when somebody you love and you care about is going through that, I mean, you're going to throw everything you can at it to try to make sure that, that they're okay, and that they can, see what they're doing. But until he got sick and tired of being sick and tired, and made that decision to change, it didn't help. I mean, they spent hundreds of thousands of dollars sending him to rehab and detox and all of these different programs. And the funny thing is it wasn't any of those that made him change. He decided, he saw other people's lives. He, just like in the story, just like written in the story, finally one day he looked up and he saw giants all around him, and he said, well, I'm tired of living and playing small. And he went down a different path, and he knew that it would be hard. He knew that there would be challenges, that he would have to stretch and grow, and that his life would be forever changed, but it was going to be tough, but he needed somebody to give him a new perspective as well. And there were giants that were there still, even though they had been through so much heartache and pain, just like I'm sure your family members and friends and people like that maybe had written you off at certain times, but then saw the change and said, okay, let's help Tiffany, let's figure this out. And so anyway, all that was just bringing up all kinds of stuff for me because of the personal connection that I have in a pretty much a best friend scenario. So
See, this is beautiful. It just highlights, the book highlights this journey. And what's amazing to me is that the journey from going from living a small life to a giant life, it might be a different scenario. Like in your case, it's overcoming drug addiction. It's overcoming yourself, right? In another, it might be building a business. In another, it might be a religious experience. In others, it might not be. But it applies to the journey, because once you have that awakening of there's something more in me, and that's sprouted inside of you, there's no going back, right? There's this position where you've decided, I'm all into my new life. And so my question is, was it easy to go from there to where you are today?
No. No.
Well, that answers it.
That's it, guys. That's the end of the show.
I had a feeling it was going to be no.
Yeah.
Expound on that for us.
So it wasn't easy, but it definitely wasn't as hard as I was making it out to be when I was on the street. So I don't want, when I say no, I don't want that to interfere with anybody that is trying to make this leap, right? Or this change.
I think we need to hear that, because it takes effort, right? It takes an exertion of energy, and we say hard, but hard seems immovable. Mm-hmm. It might be sticky. It might be a little difficult.
I want to point this out, from Mancherry, is that and this is true. Like, you might not be going through a drug addiction or, sex trafficking or something. I mean, that seems like something so big, but somebody else's big thing, might be, something just ADHD, getting up in the morning, depression, anxiety. There's tons and tons of stuff out there, and that might be, we call it their Everest, that's their Mount Everest that they have to climb. And it's just as hard for them, going down their journey.
That's a huge point right there, right? Like it doesn't look the same, but it's just as difficult for them as it is for you. It's a different scenario.
Sometimes it's not like quite as visual, right? It might be going on internally. There's this battle that's happening internally, versus playing out as much in life for everyone to see.
Yeah,
that's so true.
So keep going. I mean, you keep triggering all these nuggets, and so it's
excellent.
Awesome.
Okay, so fast forward.
Yeah,
I'm not detoxing right anymore. I'm starting to get a little bit of a level head or clear head.
Yeah.
Still heard voices for months and months into my recovery. I don't talk about that a lot. There's a lot of side effects. I was very malnutrition, so I'm trying to just get healthy, right? But also here I am 2 months into my recovery, and I know that I had 17 felonies hanging over my head, and I'm like, oh no, what do I do?
Yeah.
So I ended up going into one of my cases and begging actually for that drug court that I was talking to you guys about. And they said, no, we've been offering this to you for years and you've turned it down. You've been running from us. And so, but that's like my first part that I started finding my voice and the power within myself. Right. I let them know, and they just took my word for it. They didn't know really, but they could probably tell the difference in me coming into court prior to that day that I had something good going on in my life. So they ended up giving me this court, and I learned a lot, and I was able to have some discipline in my life. I love the word discipline.
Speak to that. I want to hear why. Yeah, why do you love that word?
It's just such a good place to grow and to learn what works for you and what doesn't work for you, and take direction. And Oh, I just love it. Like,
I hear accountability in that too,
yes.
and I know you did that. So, but that's what I heard. Like, I took accountability through my actions, through, Tiffany deciding that, hey, look, I can't play small anymore. That I've seen something different, the possibilities for me. This is the same in the book. Rit sees the possibilities. He starts to grow a little bit, and he outgrows his old life, and he realizes, look, I can't go backwards, And so you got a choice to make from there as well. And I can tell that you started to be accountable and disciplined moving forward. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, and I use that word all the time, or I use discipline in my life all the time, every day. So
okay,
yeah.
so you got the drug court. You start seeing this, they see these change. Okay, yep, keep going.
Graduate, start volunteering in the community to gain some purpose. Still not really. I like myself at this point, right?
Yeah,
not loving myself yet, but I'm liking myself.
I like that. That's it. From liking to loving, right?
Hey, there's a lot of people I love though, and I don't like them. At different times too. So
yeah,
it's also a pivotal point though. Like that's amazing, because you do have to learn to love yourself, and liking is a good stepping stone in that.
It is the right direction, right?
Well, you're not talking about a leap too. Hang on to that thought. So don't lose that. But you're not talking about a leap from where you are to fully loving yourself. You're talking about a process and steps and incrementally improving. Going from liking to loving is a step. I mean, you went from a space where you didn't even like yourself.
Hated myself.
You went from hate to probably apathy, and from apathy to liking, right?
Yep.
And then liking to loving. That's powerful. Keep going. What was your thought that you had there? Do you remember? Yeah.
I was going to say that, yeah, I started. So remember I said in my addiction, I would stare at myself and not know who I was.
Yeah.
I kept doing that from day one that I stepped into recovery. Like, I was search, and it was so cool to see one day, detoxing, still not knowing who I was, but feeling like I was sicker than a dog, but still feeling like I'm doing something good.
Yeah.
And then slowly but surely, like, that soul that I would see or would come back, you know what I mean? And so, like, it started coming back.
Huh.
And I really like that. And I still do that today. I really, really like it. Like, now I can identify who I am.
So that soul, that void that you had, was that emptiness inside of you, is that soul that you couldn't see, right? Maybe it was present, but you just couldn't fully experience it. So you're looking outside of you for that. And then you find out that you fall in love with this guy and he betrays, right? Which is what people are going to betray in some way. They're not going to do what we have in mind. And we have these expectations. But then you fall back on you. There's nothing there, right? There's nothing going on in there. And so you lean to drugs, and then the drugs betray you. You've got all these felony counts sitting over you, and you've got all this stuff hanging over you from that choice, from this thing that you think you love in the moment, and it betrays you too, right? And then finally you have this awakening where you're able to detox from that old life, that old way of being. And there's that discomfort and that sickness and that fear and anxiety and all the stuff, I'm sure, that comes up with
space in the middle, like, and that, that now you got to deal with all the stuff that your choices, caused you, but you can still see the possibilities.
Yeah. And the more you step toward that possibility, the more you start to realize, wow, dude, everything I've been looking for is right here. Right?
You and Hugh must have been synchronistic in that too.
And so you start to grow that, right? So you went from trying to find a solution out here and feeling empty to feeling full in here and growing that. And then that expands out into everything you touch. Can you speak to that a little bit?
To everything I touch?
No, about the feeling, that feeling of your soul. Like, keep going with that. So what occurred as that began to grow inside of you?
So I started Sorry, I lost my train of thought again. Here we
No,
go.
you're good. You're good. Well, and we can go on a different train. Like we're good.
Yeah.
There's so many tracks we
I've
can
been
go
in
down.
lots of trains.
Yeah, me too. I get motion sick.
Sometimes it's good to just get off the train for a minute.
Yeah. Front runner tracks, all of it, right?
Yeah.
What I can say from that is that I started seeing a light in myself so I could see light in others.
Mm.
And
Look at both me and Nick, both like we can taste it. That's delicious.
Yeah, isn't that interesting? We say that when there's satisfaction in the experience, like there's satisfaction in what you just said. There's satisfaction in food, like that. What you just said is satisfying. Like when you see the light in yourself, you start to see it in others. And so,
powerful.
Yeah, keep going.
And so I wasn't trying to use people for what I could get, right? Or to emotionally steal from them, right? And I think that's what I was doing my whole entire life. If I really look back on it, like what can I get from you, right? Because I was looking from the outside, and so I was constantly will take, see what this person can deliver to my life, instead of just really seeing them for who they were. And it's because I didn't see me. So
you know what's interesting too is I look back and you had talked about starting to do service. It's when you take your eye off of yourself. It's funny because you kind of think, well, I got to take care of myself, and that is true. There is self-care that needs to take place. But when you can take the focus and shift that away from yourself and serve others, it's so interesting to me how much comes back into your life, and you can start to, you can grow, you can change, you can adjust. I don't know. I just thought that was interesting there.
That's huge right there, because what you're doing right now is you're serving those that are watching this, because somebody might be in the darkness right now. They might think there's no hope. How do you overcome addiction? They're up there Googling or on YouTube, how to overcome addiction. And then they see this video by Tiffany Naccarato saying, look, this is my experience. I'm not telling you how to overcome addiction. I'm telling you my journey. And then in that journey, what occurs is we have these things called mirror neurons that we start to reflect what we see in you in ourselves. And so it creates this inspiration in us. And then that inspiration grows, and that pathway strengthens and strengthens and strengthens. See, if we fight the old, we're just giving energy to the old behaviors, and that strengthens those pathways. But when we accept that those pathways are there and then move on to creating the new pathways, like you're doing, as I knock over my mic, as you're describing, I'm getting animated here with my hands. You're creating new pathways where the old is still there. It's still a possibility for you to go back to that old way of being. But the energy and the fulfillment and the love that comes through creating that new pathway, that's the secret. See, people fight so much fighting the old. The secret is to let the old be what it was, and then grow the new and become who you're capable of. Yeah. Interesting. What came up for you right there?
So, just daily practice of making that new strong. Like you said, not focusing. I do have a story, right, of my past, and I'm not hush hush about it. I'm open and willing to share about it, but I also do something daily to strengthen the new path of my life.
Yeah, you don't live in that old space. You talk about it and learn from that experience. And then I heard a quote this week that talked about, said something like, smart people learn from their mistakes, but wise people learn from the mistakes of others. And so that you're giving away your wisdom and saying, hey, don't go, you don't have to go through what I went through. Like here, look at all this. And I don't know what this is and why it's over here, but it is.
There it is.
There it is.
There it is. It's on one of these sides.
Yeah, it's somewhere around here. But I love that you're not living in the past, but you're living, you're creating, like Hugh had talked about, you're creating and stepping forward into this beautiful creation of, and being able to be, do, or have anything that you want, and helping others, reaching back and giving them a new perspective. In the story, Rit hops on the shoulders of Remy, and he gives him a new perspective. I posted in the tribe about that today, in the Tribe of Giants on Facebook, that we see you. You start to see other people as giants, and that they have this potential, and that, look, I went through some stuff. I'm talking like I'm you. Look, I went through some stuff, but I did too. Like, you go through some stuff in life.
You
get
don't
life.
sound like her at all.
No,
Good,
if I
voice.
changed my voice, I have to go put on my lipstick. But you have a powerful message, Tiffany. This is amazing. Thank you.
So these words that are on the screen, reacting and creating, right? Same letters, same letters, but we get to choose how we arrange them. And so when you're looking at fighting your old life, you're reacting to your old life. The same opportunities, right? Your same exertion of energy, but what you've chosen to do is to create your new life. And I think there's power in that, because what that does is it gives you a vision and a hope for the future. So like Ryan is saying, when you're able to stand on the shoulders of what's possible for you, then you can start to work toward that. But if you're always focused on the past, all you've done is feed the energy of that past and kept it alive, right? Instead of it becoming a story, it becomes what you see in your life right now, right? What comes up for you as you hear that?
That I am the creation of my world, right? And that I can do whatever that I want to do, or believe. I can believe in myself. And so today, like, I have a lot of dreams. Like, I just made my vision board, and it's awesome.
Amazing. Yeah.
And so there's a lot of things that I want to do. I want to start coaching on my own. So right now I'm a recovery coach for you, Sarah. And like you said, a courtroom advocate, but I'd like to start, I want to be a life coach and coach birth moms, because I'm a birth mom. You said of 4, but I have placed my youngest for adoption 7 years ago. And I've been able to help a couple other mothers through that process. And so that's on my to-do list.
I want to shift some language for you around this, because you say, I want to be. Want means to be without, right? It literally means that, to be without. So I don't have this thing. It would be nice in the future. But the truth is that you already are coaching. Like in this video right now, you are coaching. You are a coach with those moms and the people that you're supporting in the courtrooms. That's coaching. You are a coach. So to shift that language to, I am creating, I am a coach, I am doing these things, turns it into a language of power. Does that make sense?
Yes.
See, people already know. Look, right here.
I am coaching.
Al said it.
Yeah.
You were his wife's coach.
Thank you, Al.
So can you feel I can feel a total energy shift through this conversation. And the beauty of it is it takes you from that space of darkness. You know, when we start our journey, it feels like there's no hope and we're down on this level of darkness and I don't know what to do. And it doesn't seem like things are going to change. And then you have this experience that wakes you up to opportunity and you start to grow, right? And then by the end of it, not only have you grown, but you're wondering, how big of a giant can I become? You go from that space of hopelessness to, not only am I a giant now, but man, what can I do as a giant? What else can I create? And I know there are a lot of things that you're working on that give you that vision for the future. And so do you want to share some of those? What are some of your hopes and visions? What are you creating? So life coaching. Coaching. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Yeah.
So coaching for birth moms.
Yeah.
I would like to organize a humanitarian trip to Kenya, Africa, to go serve in a orphanage. That's something that I will be doing. How do you like that language change?
Well, I prefer, like, let's take it even further. I am. So it is already created. And so I'm wondering when that will be so that we can all join in, you know?
You want to go to Africa with me?
Africa would be awesome. I would do that in a heartbeat. Yeah.
So 2021. So this year.
2021.
Yeah.
Okay.
I am planning on getting a new house for my children and I, even though they don't live with me, but I would like to have them under one roof. So,
yeah.
and then, yeah, just starting my own coaching business. Those are the three things on my, I have something. Do you want me to be very?
Yeah.
I have 4 things on my vision.
Okay. Let's hear it.
I want to fall in love. So here we are, back to love again. We started with love and now.
But from a different space, you know, you're coming at this from a space of, I already love myself. And I want to be in the space of somebody else that also already loves themselves. And correct me if I'm wrong in that, you know, that we can come together in that love where we're whole individually, but it complements. It's like wine with dinner, you know, it's like maybe not wine for everybody, like coffee and donuts. I don't know. It's like they complement each other. It's like Mountain Dew. Yeah. And Ryan Morris, man, they just go together. I love that.
Yeah, it's definitely a different space today than it's ever been in my entire life.
Yeah.
I've been years now in my recovery because, like I said, I'm almost to my 4-year mark, right? And I've taken years now to learn who I am, who I wanted to be, right? And make that happen. And so, I definitely sit here in a different space of love than I did 10 years ago or 20 years ago or whatever.
Yeah. You know, who knows? Maybe the Tribe of Giants will turn into a dating app of some sorts for giants. Just throw that out there, not intentionally. But man, there are people that are operating at they're trying to operate at a higher level. And it makes sense to me that there are going to probably be relationships that occur out of the Tribe of Giants, you know, and who knows how that will look. But the possibilities for you, what I love about this is you went from no possibilities, why am I still here, praying to die, help me to die, to help me to live. And then not only help me to live, but help me to make an impact in the world. And not only that, but I believe I can. And not only do I believe I can, I am. And then from that space, you continue to create more. And it's almost like God or the universe says, you know what, you're doing great with what you got. Let me give you a little more. You know, and you do. And I see what you're doing. You're an advocate in so many areas for people. And your ability to empathize based on what you've been through is what creates that connection. And so, man, this is amazing. What else comes up for you? What else do you want to share today?
Oh man, okay, I'll share this. So when I got invited to be on here, I started asking my participants, people I coach, what have I taught them? And before I asked that, let me go back. Before I asked that, myself, what I wanted to teach the world, right? And what I want to teach the world is to love yourself and embrace yourself and be comfortable who you are at the moment. Because I have to constantly remind myself that all the time. I had to do it before I came on here, right? Just like honor who you are, whatever happens, to still love yourself. And so anyways, it was really cool that I was able to ask people that meet with me weekly to talk to me about what's going on in their life. And I asked them, what have I taught them? And the majority of them told me that I taught them to love themselves. So I felt that really touched my heart.
Yeah, that's valuable. I think for the tribe members and those that come later that maybe don't even know about the tribe that are watching this on YouTube, to be able to share with people and teach them how to love themselves, I think is a big step to accept your life the way that it is. I hated the way my life was. I resisted it. And in that resistance, it kept proceeding that way. It persisted. And the moment I could just accept my life the way it was, then things started to shift like in a ridiculous way, unexplainable ways. And so I love that you're able to teach people how to love themselves first as a foundation for moving forward.
And I wouldn't be able to do that if I didn't love myself first, right? So
Right. Yeah, we can see through. You can see through superficial. I can. I mean, I can see when somebody's putting on a show, putting on a facade. I love you, and then they go and punch somebody in the face, right? Like, don't get me wrong, I have my moments where I feel like that, but consistently.
I do too.
Yeah. So, man, Ryan, what other thoughts are you having?
This is from one of our Facebook users. Can you touch on a recent trip to Seattle and being reconnected with a gal you had coached? Are you comfortable doing that?
Yeah, absolutely. So my friend Emma, we were on the streets together, and she was like a little sister to me. And this is like 5 years ago. She ended up going to prison, right? And we lost track. And then I was in Seattle, and I've been seeing her on Facebook that she's doing great. She got married, she just had a baby. And she's just doing great. And so I was in Seattle, and she hit me up one night. She's like, "You're here? Let's see each other." And she came down and met me within a half hour of that conversation. And we hadn't seen each other since we were literally in a trap house with no heat or water, surviving and barely surviving, right? Struggling so hard. And then we got to see each other's light that night. It was really cool. And I got to meet her new husband and her baby, and just share new memories, because before the memories were, not very good. And yeah, it's wonderful when you see other people come out of it too.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, I want to hit on that a little bit, the starting new memories, because the memories are stories that we tell ourselves about the events that occur. And so the old memories are the old stories that we used to tell about the events that occurred. But here you can have the same event, have two people tell different stories, different memories of that event. And so really it is a choice of what memory you want to create. And so going into this experience, seeing your friend within 30 minutes of that conversation, seeing the light in her, telling that story, seeing her beautiful husband, her family, like we get to narrate this whole thing. The event could have been neutral, could have been anything. Yeah, I saw my friend, right? But no, I saw my friend's light. I saw her changes. I saw her transformation. And you start to move forward in that memory. And then you start to create memories about yourself that are that way. Like, I'm a new person. I remember this time. I see my light, right? And your narrative just totally shifts, and your whole perspective shifts. And that's a on the shoulder moment,
Yeah.
It's where you see the world a little different.
I love seeing the world a little different. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
Cool.
Thank you for sharing that, Nicholas.
You're welcome. I wonder, what piece of wisdom would you share with those that are watching, that are maybe in that struggle? What would you share with them? Not advice, but wisdom.
I would definitely just start small. Like, you don't need to be a giant at first, right? Start small, start growing, and it can be something very little. And that doesn't have to be with an addiction, right? It could be, or getting out of that. It could be something. I start small all the time, and it ends up turning into something big. So even if it's, I don't know, this year I started drinking more water, right, to help me with my transformation of my body, because I wanted to get into shape. And so just drinking water 9 months ago, now it's turned into something huge. And
yeah.
Can I speak to that real quick?
Yeah.
So in the book, there's this spot, and there's probably a little bit of a glare. There's this moment where Rit looks up, and in the illustration, there's a clock tower that's has the number of change. And so Rit, he's taken the same path and living a small life. And you just talked about sometimes the small things that come along don't seem like they're giant. But I want to read something real quick. So Rit only saw the path that he was on, and rarely looked up to see what else might be happening around him. One day, a burst of distant laughter high above him had him look to the sky. The giants had always been nearby, but he had never paid attention to them. And for some reason that day, the sight of them sparked some fascinating questions. Why are there giants, he wondered. Why are they living such giant lives while I live this small one? How did they become so massive? Is it possible for me to become a giant? And this is interesting to me. These were the first giant questions Rit had ever asked himself. He had once heard that everyone could become a giant, but his parents' words rang in his mind. Giants are giants, and smalls are small, and that's the way it'll always be. For Rit, right there, that was for outside people, that could be just a small thing, just looking up and asking a few questions. But for Rit, it was a giant thing. And so sometimes those small things can be giant. You are a giant. Rit was a giant. He is a giant.
Always been there. That's the
Always
thing,
been
is
there.
it's always been within you to be the giant that you are today. It wasn't like you got a new body and a new soul. It was already in there. And so you recognized it. And in recognizing it, you recognize it in others, and you spark that in others. And that spark that they get in themselves helps them to recognize, hey, I'm a giant too. Like, I don't have to stay on the same small path. Like, I can do big things too. And it's relative. That size of that change in your life is relative. Like, I was never addicted to drugs. So that experience is foreign to me, but is as big as anything I'm creating in my life, that transition that you made, right?
Mhm.
It's relative. It's beautiful that there are so many ways to become a giant in your world. It doesn't have to look like anybody else's. In fact, I don't think that it can look like anybody else's. You might unite yourself with somebody else's giant dream and vision, but you are doing it in your own way. Like, it's still your giant's journey.
Different small steps, like changing pathways and taking, as a small, Rit was a small, and he had small steps. He was small, but different small steps, they're giant. And then also, a giant takes normal steps, right? They seem giant to a small, but they might be small to a giant. He might, different steps. A giant still has all the opportunities and infinite pathways that they can go down. Sometimes those are scary, and so sometimes that even as a giant, there's days that I don't feel so giant.
Mhm.
And then I look and I go, okay, that path's a little scary, but I'm going to step into it and grow through it. Take small steps, one in front of the other, can lead to giant outcomes.
Yeah, shuffle.
Yeah, just shuffle your feet.
If that's all you can do that, shuffle. It doesn't matter, but those small steps add up. And I am just blown away, Tiffany, at the transformation. Like, energy in the law of thermodynamics, it talks about energy not being created or destroyed. It's just transformed. And the energy of your life, it wasn't destroyed or created. I mean, it was there, it was present, but you took a certain type of energy and you totally transformed it into something else. That is the power of you and every person watching this, is that the energy of your life, it can't be destroyed, can't be created. All it can be is changed from one form to another. And you took a negative form of energy and turned it into a positive. And so your journey helps people to see that. And I love it. And I love that this book ties right into your journey. Like, you're telling the story. Every person we've had on tells the story of becoming a giant in a different way, but it's still relevant. It's the same process. What else comes up for you?
That I'm learning a lot here. I feel like you guys are coaching me, so this is awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like a giant today. So thank you for that.
Amazing. You are a giant.
We see you. You're doing amazing. Keep going.
Man, this is an impactful message. So thank you. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for opening up and being vulnerable about it, because a lot of people hide their story, but it's in sharing that story, like Brene Brown talks about, that growth occurs, and that story loses its power over you. When you hide that story, it has power, but when you share it, it becomes neutral. It becomes a thing. It's like a tree. It's a tree. So yeah, beautiful job today. Great conversing with you. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I had fun.
That's good. Ryan, do you have any other thoughts before we wrap up?
Oh, you know what? It's amazing every single week, and I say this all the time. But when giant after giant comes on, and they have very different stories, but very
Yeah.
same pattern of a journey of growth. That pattern is very similar or the same. And
Yeah.
once we recognize that we have the giant potential and start stepping into it and believing that we are already giants, we can then create from that space and then turn around and do exactly what Tiffany's doing, reach back and pull others up and help them realize their giant potential until they can start believing it and stepping down new pathways and creating.
So
And
then,
as that happens, it builds mass. We've started to build
yeah.
a wonderful mass of people in the tribe of giants. If you haven't got on there, go get on there. See this group and how they perform and show up. They've been commenting like crazy, Tiffany, because they relate. Their journeys are a little bit different, but they all relate and they're understanding, and they feel like today that you're touching their soul and connecting with them and helping them in their journey. So tons of people, I mean, I can't even keep up with the comments of thanking you for your experience. This looks like it's Curtis, so thank you, Curtis, for that. We appreciate you. And there's so many people that are supporting and being there, and we see you doing that inside the tribe as well. So thank you for sharing your journey with us.
Thank you so much.
I have a quote I want to wrap up with that says, if you want to lift yourself up, lift up someone else. Booker T. Washington. Just a powerful quote. Guys, make it a giant day. Keep stepping. You're doing better than you think. So keep going and create those visions of the future of the life that you would like to have and start creating that. And it might look a little different from what you have in mind when you get there, but keep stepping. That's the power of you. Make sure, hey, you did it. Make sure that you subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't done that. Follow us in the Tribe of Giants as well. We love you. We appreciate you. Tiffany, thanks for being on the show. Ryan, great job today. You guys make it a giant day, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Love you too.
Love you.